Welcome back everybody to another MOTOBOB vlogs, where today we're on the launch of the NT1100 with Honda. Absolutely beautiful up here in the hills in Spain, just outside Barcelona. And we've just had a quick coffee stop at a nice little cafe over there and about to roll out. So yeah, I don't really have time to give you a walk around, but let's get on the road and I'll tell you all about it. Now this bike does have Bluetooth connectivity and Apple CarPlay, but I've got my Beeline Moto on anyway because I wanted to test it out abroad and see what it's like, and it's been really good so far actually. Just as good as in the UK. As long as you got data, then you're all good. Don't know if you just noticed there, but I was just taking off the handbrake. Look, we're on the DCT version, so you can't leave it in gear on when you're parking on an incline. So this is the handbrake. Really easy to use actually. Stuff like the recluse clutch on the MV Augustas, you have an extra pedal down by your foot that sort of locks the rear brake pedal in place, but I think I prefer this because you can then hold the rear brake with your foot and just easily put that on. No manual bikes on the launch today, I'm afraid. So far this morning I've been getting on all right with the DCT, but I would prefer a manual box with the quick shifter. Oh, he wants me to come through. Cheers. In the automatic mode, DCT just always seems to be seeking for 6th gear. It wants to get to 6th gear as quickly as possible. I'm not sure if they've done that for, you know, fuel efficiency reasons, but I always just feel like it's revving too low. It gets bogged down, and when this engine is down at like 2,000 revs, it's fine, but it just doesn't have the, you know, mid-ranginess that is so good about this engine. When you give it some throttle like that, it knows that you want more from the engine. It'll hang on to the gears, but if you take it by surprise, if you're at a moderate throttle position and then you just give it some gas to try and pick the speed up, sometimes it takes a little while to sort itself out. And yeah, I've generally been finding, I mean, you can override it with the buttons over here, so you could bang it down a gear, but I've just been finding, especially on roads like this, that you're better off just sticking it into, and then between 3rd and 2nd it'll do the trick. The engine really picks up at like 6,000 revs, so a lot of the time I have been finding that you get much more out of it if you do just shift down to 2nd. It gives you a lot more response. Here we go. Bit of mud still on the roads. It's brilliant actually in this manual mode. It's so smooth going between the two, you know, the two clutches, that it really does make for almost unnoticeable shifts. If you couldn't hear the engine, you wouldn't feel it. And so I guess for a touring bike, that's a massive benefit. They talked about helmet bashing, they called it in the presentation last night. You know, when you nut the person in front when they're changing gear or on the brakes, and obviously you're going to get less of that with this super smooth DCT box. There's no big surprises with this bike because it is so heavily based upon the Africa Twin, so the engine is pretty much the same apart from the exhaust and intake, and the rest of it you could swap in between the two bikes. And so I knew it was going to be good. I love this engine, one of the best parallel twins out there. Woo! Squirming a bit. And then the chassis as well, the frame is pretty much the same. So where's everyone gone? They're still behind me. Yeah, the frame's pretty much the same. They've sharpened up the head angle, shorter suspension suited to the road, and road wheels, but still that tall semi-adventure-y stance. But the handling's really I mean, I was saying earlier to someone at the coffee stop just there, I haven't really thought about the suspension. I was perhaps expecting it to be a little bit under spec. It doesn't have compression and rebound adjustability, just preloading the fork and shock, so you can get it set up for carrying a passenger and luggage, but maybe because it just didn't have all that fancy adjustment, I was thinking, is it going to be a bit basic, built to a price? But I just really haven't thought about it. There's not been a situation in which I've thought, oh, this is a bit soft and wallowing around, and at the same time, you know, cruising on the motorway, I didn't think it was too firm either. So it's very nicely done from Honda, and it does make for a great handling bike. 238 kilograms in the non-DCT version, 248, so it adds 10 kilograms for DCT. Oh, I just caught a glimpse of some bikes ahead there, so I am going the right way. I must say I'm thoroughly enjoying myself. What do you think of that exhaust note? It doesn't get the same control valve as the Africa Twin, which gives it more of a throb, they say, in the low revs, but I still think it's a nice sounding bike. Probably not one you'd put a loud pipe on if you're cruising on the motorway a lot, but when you get on the throttle, you do get enough to amplify your you know, emotions of riding the bike, and that's what you want, really. We've had rain all morning, so it's greasy, but Metzeler Rotek tyres on this bike seem to be doing the job. It's just this sort of stuff on the road there that you got to watch out for, but it's forecast to keep drying. I think the pace will pick up a little this afternoon. Usually does on launch trips like this, sedate in the morning, and then people start pushing it later on. But yeah, in summary, the handling, the engine, it's not the most powerful bike, it's not got like super spec components, but thoroughly pleasant, and there's definitely enough there to make it not boring, you know, to ride in situations like that. I'll talk you through the cockpit a little bit here. So look, there's a lot of buttons on this bike, especially in the DCT trim. So we'll go left to right. We've got a horn, indicators, self-cancelling, I may add, hazards there, and you've got the triggers for the DCT to go through the gears. You've got your headlight up here, so flash and main beam, function button, and sort of page button that can also do connectivity. So with your headset, you can answer phone calls with that button, and I think trigger Siri or whatever. The function button does stuff like heated grips, turning them up and down. A favorite button, a directional pad, enter, back, so that's all for navigating menus and stuff. And then a couple of media playback buttons, so skip and back. Handbrake here, starter, there's another function button on the back there. Cruise control, which is standard on this bike, as are the heated grips, I may add. And then you've got your drive or neutral, and then switch between auto and manual on the DCT box. Bit of dry road, always nice to see. And then yeah, for the screen we've got the big TFT dash, same as the Africa Twin. Now it is a bit, you know, plain in its design, and I think that's just the nature of the way that Honda do their electronic interfaces. So it is what it is. But certainly if you look at something from, I don't know, even BMW, KTM definitely, and certainly the Triumph TFTs where they change colour as the revs pick up and stuff, you know, there's a little more drama to them. But all the same, it's super functional. It can change based on whatever riding mode you've got set. So at the moment I'm in Tour mode. We've got 3 riding modes, so Tour, wait a sec, don't crash, need to shift down a gear as well, Rain and User, Oh shit, it's getting a bit twisty. Hang on a bit. I'll basically look at the road, you guys look at the screen, and I'll go through. You can see one's like a simple rev meter, that one. This one's got revs and speed. And then you've got the fully fledged, like, shit, where's Tour? There, I'll stick it back in Tour and forget about it now. That's got all the settings and your trip meters and things like that. So it's really readable, but yeah, not very emotive. People behind me are probably thinking, why is he going super fast and then super slow? Definitely concentrate on riding now. In terms of the riding modes and what they affect, you've got throttle response, engine braking and traction control. Those are the parameters you can mess around with. I think it might also affect the DCT behavior on this version, but I need to double check that. No lean sensitive rider aids, so the IMU from the Africa Twin Adventure Sport, I'm not sure if the base one gets it, but yeah, there's no lean sensitivity, I guess to keep the cost down, but also, do you really need it as well on a touring bike like this? Probably not. Versus something like an Africa Twin, which is sort of up and down and all over the place if you do off-road it. I hope that my modest riding ability, and perhaps some of the riding in front of me, is just showing you that it's not a slouch. It's not a sports tourer. It's not going to feel as sharp as something like a Tracer or S1000 XR or anything like that, but there's still plenty of fun to be had. It's really cool that Honda have got a couple of the project leaders from Japan here on the trip, so obviously there's a little bit of a language barrier, but their basic English is enough to have some quick conversations about the bike, and they were asking me what's my one favorite thing, and I had to say hands down it's the wind protection. I've got the adjustable screen in its lowest position, but it can go up by 16 centimeters, so right up here. Combine it with these deflectors, but also your knees are like right pressed into the tank here. It's very wide around the tank, and there's even deflectors down by your shins. It just makes for a really, really comfy bike. I told them it was like a mini Goldwing because I was trying to do it in, you know, simple language. Not something I struggle with, talking in simple language. But yeah, I said it was a baby Goldwing, which they liked. And I think that's my big takeaway. I could definitely eat up some massive miles on this bike. I've got the comfort seat on this version, and it really is very, very comfortable. The bars are pulled a little bit closer than the Africa Twin because you don't have to have a standing riding position because you're not going to off-road it, or at least I hope you're not. And they're rubber mounted as well. And yeah, they've really prioritized some of those comfort features that make it a proper good practical bike over fanciness when it comes to performance parts. And I think at the price point it's all the better for it. Suspension is great. The brakes, Nissin's 4-pot radial mounted, same as the Africa Twin again, just as good as any Brembos I've tried, certainly for this level of riding. You're not going to be hard on the brakes, charging into corners all the time. I think this is probably about as aggressive as it would get for this kind of bike, and it's been absolutely grand. But yeah, like I say, it's super, super comfy. With that screen up, at my height, I'm 5'9", so if I'm just ducking down a little, it's incredible. I mean, this would be a great choice, definitely one to try out. If you fancy a touring bike, but you think the Africa Twin looks perhaps a bit tall and top heavy, and the Goldwing or something like that looks a bit big, because they are properly big. They're hard to maneuver around big tourers like the Goldwing and the K1600. Then this, you know, it's the compromise between the two of them. It's the road focus and low slungness of the Goldwing and all the wind protection, and some of the refinement, lots of the comfort features, but lighter and easier to get on with. You know, it's 238 kilograms, I think I already said this, 248 with DCT. That's a good 50-60 kilos less than the Goldwing. And then seat height, you know, much lower than the Africa Twins. It's just an all-round very good bike. It's hard to find any big mistakes or howlers with it. There really isn't anything that I would say is ill-considered about it. It does everything that you need, or that you'd expect of a bike like this. And there are definitely some big checkboxes when it comes to tourers. So cruise control is a must, and it's standard on this bike. Big adjustable screen and good additional wind protection, again a must, and standard on this bike. You wouldn't need to fit a deflector if you're my height anyway. You want good suspension and brakes, and it does that without being flashy. You want enough pep in the engine, and it does when you get it up to 6,000 revs, but also something smooth and reliable and efficient, and it does all that. Decent tank range is another massive, you know, criteria for most touring riders. 20.4 litres on this bike, so you'll get 250 miles. Well, that's what they claim. I reckon you could probably get more. I mean, today's not a good test because we're absolutely caning it most of the time, but certainly on the motorway at a constant speed, it seemed like under 5 litres per 100 kilometres was doable, and that'd be 250 miles for 5 litres per 100 kilometres on this tank. So yeah, I think if you were riding at or under 70, you might even get more out of it. And then the comfy seat, there's great provisions for the passenger as well. So 60mm of padding on their seat, and they've designed the panniers to be narrow, so it's easy to get your leg over when you're climbing on. And also they've designed them with the passenger's legs in mind, so there's enough space. The exhaust is slung low, so it's well away from them, so it's a good comfy bike in that respect. And I think it's 60 odd litres of pannier capacity. The two side cases are standard fit as well at 12 grand. It's not bad. And then there's a top box with a backrest if you so wish. It just feels like it's got everything covered. Heated grips are standard. Yes, love it. So as you can tell, I'm super impressed. I think if you're expecting a really pacey, high-spec bike, something very sporty, it's probably not going to quite do it for you. There are certainly sports tourers out there that are more powerful, better spec'd in terms of the suspension and brakes and that sort of thing, with their lean sensitive rider aids, where you might need those if you're really pushing it. But for the stuff that matters to the more discerning motorcyclist, not discerning, but you know, the stuff that matters to somebody who isn't just going to go and thrash, they just want to have a nice comfy ride. Look, this is ridiculous, this road. Left, right, left. Then yeah, I think it does a lot of it very well. The other thing as well is if you want any imaginable gearbox configuration, you know, you can go manual for 12 grand. You can add a quick shifter. I don't get a price on it, but it's probably a few £100. So you can do clutchless up and down shifts. And then you've got DCT for an extra grand. So even with that, you can go between automatic mode, or you can take over with the paddles, or you can go fully manual in DCT. And so whatever you fancy really is on the cards. Anyway, that's a bunch of unorganized thoughts about the bike. Hope you've enjoyed. I'm just trying to assemble all of that into some sort of order for my review, which I think I'm going to shoot at the lunch break here, and that'll be up on the main channel shortly. Oh wait, one last thing. I did say in my last vlog, where I was riding the Sportster S, that I had a vlog coming with the Fat Bob. and I was going to do a head-to-head comparison of that and the Sportster S. So that was going to be out before this video, but on my way out here I decided to clear some space on my laptop so that I had enough you know, room for all the footage from this trip, and I accidentally deleted all the files for that video, as well as the video for the main channel where I was going to do a Sportster versus Fat Bob. So that's why that video didn't come out, because I'm an idiot and I just deleted it, emptied the trash, and then I was like, I'll edit that Fat Bob video on the plane, and then I was like, oh, the one that I deleted, a few swear words, and then move on, don't you? Anyway, take it easy, and I'll see you all soon.